Hi, I'm Yannie Gu, and this is how I create.
Welcome to This Is How We Create, a show that digs deeper into the creative life of contemporary artists of color. Discover what feeds their creativity and how they found or are finding their artistic voice. Through these intimate and candid conversations, you'll gain insights into the lives of creative professionals of color that are hard to find anywhere else. Yannie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
So Yannie, you've said that growing up, you were always watching women, your grandmother, your ballet teachers, strangers in shopping malls. I'd love to start there with our interview. What was it about that experience of growing up in Shanghai and seeing these women that stuck with you?
Yeah, I think I grew up in a family where women are very they're just adored and centered, which I find it very fortunate. And my mom, I always like to say she's like a powerhouse. She's very fashionable. She takes care of her job with this so much care and perseverance. But at the meantime, every day when I watch her go about her job and heading to office, she always attained this very put together outfit. And then I think that was my first ever education of as a woman, you can be strong, but you can still also be very feminine. So that kind of started how it was and going into my creative practice. Cause I think as a child, or at least in Shanghai, feminism wasn't the thing that's get to talk about. I would say mostly wasn't talked about, at least before coming to America, because that was always kind of in a budding stage. And I think I got that education and awareness mostly from my family and my grandmother as well. And my mother, I trained ballet for 10 years professionally. I almost went to dance school, but instead I chose art school. I think being in the dance practice room, seeing my teachers, you have to train the muscles, you have to be strong, but then you extend your limbs, your arms, and just take up the spaces. And I think for me, it's in a way, even though dance is there's nothing vocal or linguistic about it, but I think having that gestural act or the gestural art, it makes me feel so it's okay to be confident and strong. And so I think if we trace back, that's how it was in my memory.
Wow. So when you were younger, one of the ways that you expressed yourself was through dance. I'm wondering how that changed for you in terms of when you were during that time. Were you drawing? What kind of other ways did you express your creativity?
Yeah. So maybe here's a little bit of the backstory behind that. So I was almost going to be a professional ballet dancer. That was my dream growing up. But as a kid, I think because both of my parents are really busy with work. So my mother just busy me with doodling and give me some crayons and to spend my time. And I mostly grew up in my grandparents' household instead of, my parents. So, and my grandpa, he's also a very creative person. I always see him doing calligraphy and sing. So that was my early arts education. But the fact why I shift to art making is because in China, I think you're almost kind of forced to be under this academia environment because grades are something that's looked up to, I think sadly, but that's how it is. And that's how the prestige college selects students. So, and that wasn't really being emphasized, in terms of dance. So my parents sent me to an international school in Shanghai before coming to New York. And then it was a more well-rounded curriculum. And I was lucky enough to choose visual art. So, and then I started there and tried different things. So yeah, that's pretty much the trajectory.
Can you tell me a little bit about being at SVA and how you've come to understand what it is that you love to create?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually a little nervous to pursue this MFA degree. I'm doing an MFA in fine arts at SVA. And I think personally for me, it was like a risk to take. But then I was like, it was early in this year that I was thinking, I really wanted to take my art making into a more serious level. And I was in New York. It was the city was extremely paced. And I think at one point I was kind of missing out in my art community. So I really desperately need to go back to finding my community and having this creative dialogues more frequently. So, and I'm very grateful to be at SVA because it is a big program and artists, they come from different backgrounds and they don't just do one medium, for example, just do painting or just do photography or sculpture, like some other places that divide the students. But we really just came together and they encourage you to try different things and not put you in just one category. And I think that enabled me to even pivot from my painting because I've done painting for the past few years. And before that, I studied photography for 2 years, but then I kind of almost forgot about it. And when I was SVA, I saw other people just combining mediums. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And while I'm here, why not just try out different things and see what they can make of into the work? So I think they kind of just opened doors for me, and it's a really eye-opening experience and mostly encouraged me, I would say.
Can you tell us a bit about how you came to create Museum 54?
Yeah, so Museum 54 is initially just an idea of wanting to, I would say it's only it started as a simple wish to help young artists and emerging artists. I was just kind of daydreaming one day in my senior year in college. And I was like, I see so many talented peers around me, but it would be such a pity that they don't have a platform to let more people to see their work. And then COVID hit. So I had to go back temporarily to Shanghai for a bit for sheltering and be with my family. So that gave me more time to kind of be with myself and reflect on how I can take this idea into a concrete thing. But I was just like a kid, like a 22-year-old out of college and trying to find my way and my position in the art world. And it's kind of it might sound silly, but it's kind of intimidating for a person at that stage. So I thought, why not just try something that's kind of lower stake, but challenging and experimental? So I contacted some of my friends in college and be like, hey, would you want to be interested to do a pop-up exhibition together? And then maybe we can do some research about the venues. It doesn't have to be long, maybe let's say a weekend, and just do a little party thing and gather all those young artists who had to, come back home to China from the US or Europe because they have to pause their study, but they're still creating when they move back. So wouldn't it be nice to, create an opportunity for them to network and see each other's work? And then I was lucky enough to find a gorgeous venue. It was a historical building in Shanghai. And we rented out a place for 2 days because it was so expensive. So we can only do 2 days. And we did a group show for artists and they really enjoyed the whole experience. So that was the first starting point. And I called it Museum 54 because I think I got a little inspiration from Studio 54, the legendary nightclub. And I like the idea that it was a more inclusive place than how it was before that, where people has to be divided and separated. But instead, it's really a place that people come together and a lot of creative people go there.
Oh, what a wonderful thing to have done. I mean, when people have ideas and they actually act on it, that's the best thing. And it sounds so simple to say, if you have an idea, execute the idea. But how many people did you bring together? How many artists?
So for our first show, we probably had 6 to 7.
Wow. And you bring those people together. And even if it was just for 2 days, the idea of coming together and then being exposed to each other's work and then to have other people come in and see the work, that must have been really thrilling.
It was like, and my mom came as well because it was in Shanghai, and she was like, wow, like this is a party. And, and what I like most about that was the sense of community. Because for me, I think the current art industry can be just like everyone kind of doing their own thing, and community is what matters the most at the end of the day. And I love to share resources and share, information to people. So that's what I hope to create, basically.
So in my notes I have for you, and I just want to get clarification on this. So there was an exhibition at Museum 54 called Gaze in the Age of Technology. Was that the first one that you did?
No, that was latter. That was like the 4th or 5th.
Yeah. So how many exhibits have you done now with Museum 54?
I would say like 5 or 6.
Wow, geez. That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you, Martine. But it was like in the range of like 2 years, 3 years. Yeah.
But still, like some people haven't done any, 0, And did you do all of them in Shanghai?
No. So after the first 2 exhibits, I came back to New York, and then the following were based in New York. Yeah, we went to different neighborhoods in Manhattan and then talked to the venues and kind of like collaborate, and we bring the artist. They were all kind of short. Like I would say the longest wouldn't be more than like a week or 10 days or so. But I think they created opportunities for people to know each other, and otherwise they might not.
Wow. So you did an exhibition at Museum 54 called The Gaze in the Age of Technology, which explored how we see and how we are seen. In particular, how has the digital age influenced your perspective on female identity and representation?
Oh, that's a great question. That was actually a graduation, like a thesis project for my previous grad school with my friend Amber. Shout out to Amber. She's like the brain behind it. And so we're kind of having conversations about technology art and like artists that use digital technology to create work. And so in that exhibition, it kind of talks about in the digital age, like we were constantly being perceived because there's just so much when you think of it. Like you go out and there's like monitor camera, there's surveillance, your digital footprint and your social media usage, like everything can be tracked. But at the same time, we're constantly looking out in the world too. So I think connecting that with like womanhood and like female identity and all of that, I think it's a tricky question because we are kind of being empowered more because of this kind of like decentralized platform. For example, like social media where everyone can have a voice and say things. But at the same time, you are just prone to receive more hostility and being seen by other people. So there is this duality, and I think it's quite complex. Yeah, but talking about the medium itself, I think it does give women artists like more like empowerment, because I was reading something the other day. It was saying that because like painting and let's say sculpture, it had a long history before that was mostly dominated by men. And it was like because the medium has such a long history, and versus like, for example, digital mediums like videos or like AR and stuff, it was more recent. So that allows women to have a position and a role. Like it kind of open up to them more because it's a newer medium and we're kind of growing with it together.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's in some ways, technology is creating more of a democracy in terms of who has access to self-expression and being able to then share or ship that expression to a much bigger audience than you would have if you were growing up in a village or in a town or in a country or, in a region. It's just the amount of people who can see what one person creates is a lot bigger than it has ever been before in history. So people who normally wouldn't be able to have a voice or be seen are being seen for good or ill.
Exactly. And now I'm thinking about sometimes when I'm thinking about on TikToks or the digital platforms where women, they almost sell themselves as the visual, the subject of visual pleasure. It's so intricate because at one point they are getting so much monetary rewards from doing that through the digital platform. But at the same time, they're being consumed in a way too.
And it also seems as if nothing has really changed, because if you think about the women or people who identify as women, there's the visual pleasure of femininity is not new. And it's also, there's a strict code to it, to what makes someone the ideal in terms of being feminine or being a woman. And it's always been something that we've bartered. And we barter it for entry in terms of deserving a place at the table. We barter it for security, for marriage, for economic stability.
And thinking about that, I kind of sometimes it breaks my heart to be and then just seeing hearing stories from my close friends in real life. And I was sometimes I just feel like the womanhood carries so much on their back. Yeah, but I don't know if you've seen my more recent paintings. I was obsessed with the symbol of flames. And I think that came from a hidden emotion of rage and maybe passion as well. So yeah, this might be a little bit of tangential, but I want the flames to be a symbol of protection for these women in my fictional female characters in my paintings, because that when you think of that, you kind of feel flames, their fires, they create distance when you look at them. You can't get too close to it. So it's almost creating a safe space for them.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, Yannie. In particular, I wasn't going to ask about the flames in particular, but we certainly could talk about it in greater detail. But I was going to ask about your use of color. And you use color to represent emotions. And I suppose that goes back to your background as a dancer, and that dancing is emoting. It's all about making the other feel what your gestures are through dance. And so in using red, dark browns, and blues, I guess I was wondering if you could walk us through your choices, your color choices in some of your recent work. And, you're talking about the fire, but in terms of some of the other colors you use, why do you use those colors?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that lately as well. So I think I've been kind of obsessed with the color red, or just the warm color palette lately, because when I think of women, right, I love women, there's a range of warm color palette, red, because red represents desire, but also it's the color of blood. And I think there's something visceral about that, and it gives a sense of intensity. But also I'm thinking about women have periods, and then there's also association with blood. It's almost but it can also be unsettling in a way if you use a lot of red. And I kind of want that. It's not just peace and love in my paintings, but I want to create a sense that those women are protected in my in my fictional world that I created in my paintings, but there's always this kind of like agitation or unsettling like elements going about in the external world. And I think that's also maybe something going back to the flames. So I love using like rich colors in my work. I think, Martin, you can kind of like sense that I'm like a maximalist when it comes to my colors. But also just growing up as a Chinese kid, right? Like there's so many decors as in red colors, like it's almost everywhere. And they use that in buildings and the red envelope, like everywhere. So I think that has to be subconsciously rooted in my mind.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well. As I was writing the questions, I was thinking, gosh, in Chinese culture, red is just, it's everywhere and it's a beautiful color. Gosh, as you were chatting, Yannie, I was just thinking about the difference in our work. My work creates that safety, that safe place that we were talking about just earlier in terms of how some artists, women in particular, online, as you mentioned, and as you pointed out, that they create safety and a place, comfort, that's the word you use. They create visual comfort, and you are choosing not to create visual comfort. It's as if you kind of like, there's grit and sandpaper to some of the work that you want to agitate. And I love that response of that you want to protect by adding power, right? By projecting power. And the power is innate in a woman's ability to create life.
Yeah, exactly.
And in what bonds us in subtle ways. I don't know about you, but when you think about menstruating, all my friends, we're all in the same cycle. There's this bond, and it's through blood, but it's also chemical, and it's through so many different ways. And I think I love some of the pieces that you have where you have multiple women together and there's the fire that inflames them. And it's almost as if, we have the fire within, but we can also use the fire to protect ourselves as well as protect each other.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, there were a piece where like there were two goddesses and they were like, there's flame underneath it. So they were flying in a posture of embracing each other. So that was, I think, protecting each other and giving this soft love to each other. But in my work, I don't want to portray just like a stereotypical strong woman in its physical sense, like big muscles, like big bodies. And even though that is beautiful too, but I think coming from an Eastern background, everything is kind of nuanced and subtle. So I think the women, they're still like slender and ethereal, but the flames are kind of indicating the strength is coming from within.
I was reading and I was so surprised, Yannie, that you've also started working with some prestigious brands, including Elle Magazine, Tommy Hilfiger, and then UCCA. How did these commercial experiences come about?
Yeah, that they have been very interesting experiences. Because I think I always knew that I wanted to work a day job alongside of being an artist. Because I think if it's a lot of privilege to be just a full-time artist. And I think actually working in institutions or with those brands or companies, it can give you more insight and experiences that you can channel back into your work. My actual other master was in like arts administration. So it's more the business side of art. And I was also very interested in fashion as well. So helping them made me see how the industry runs. I would say it's a good thing, even though like right now, the commercial idea is kind of stuck in my mind. And then my mentors at my MFA are saying like, you have to kind of shake that off temporarily and then just focusing on making your work more, like put your work first instead of thinking about how the commercial world, the industry runs. But that's kind of hard for me personally, because having been an independent curator and then having like sell works, helping other artists sell their work through Museum 54 and working in the arts nonprofit, like I am very aware the industry is running, and I will have to say we'll see how the outcome is, maybe like in the next 2-3 years or so. But it definitely showed me how other artists create, because we do a lot of research for other designers and artists. And I think for me personally, it's quite enriching to see their work.
Oh gosh, I'm so excited for you. How many more years do you have in your MFA?
So I just finished my first ever semester.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there's 3 more to go. So I would say 1.5 years and I'll be done.
Oh, wow. And so I'm wondering, we should totally catch up when you're done, because I think you'll have a completely different view of your work, of yourself. You would have made strides in terms of drilling down exactly on what it is that you want to say. And then 5 years from then, you would continue to change as well. That's the beauty of the experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Like, even for this semester, just these few months, like I've seen how much my work has evolved from the past. And I was like, oh my God, like, yeah. It's like a baby that's like, growing or something. I think that you must feel the same for you, Martin, because you're a photography artist, and your artist's work changes when they personally go through different stages in life, I think.
Oh gosh, yeah. I find that at this point in my work as an artist, I am going for more and more emotion actually in my work. And I want it to have kind of a visceral, tactile sense to it. And to do that in photography is quite interesting. And I'm learning more and more how to do that. And I think I'm just finally happy with where my skill set is. And, 13 years in, I'm just now happy. And now I know that I can actually create what I want to create. Whereas I think all of the years before has been about exploration, and you never stop exploring. And that's the beautiful thing. And the exploration is where the magic happens. You continue to grow as a person. And as you grow, your work changes as well. And, you're really thinking about femininity. You're thinking about womanhood. You're thinking about feminism in a very specific way and from a very specific context, using more of an Eastern viewpoint to examine those themes. As you progress through your life, it's going to be different. If you decide to have a partner and marry, you're going to see that you change. And if you decide to have children, you're going to change. Your role is going to change. And as you get older and older and older, your role changes, because then you see how society views you at the different points along your way. And then because of that, you're going to change. Your work is going to change. So I'm really excited for you to see what you continue to do, what you continue to tackle with and try to express. But I don't want to do all the talking because this is all about you, but I really want to commend you. And because putting together an exhibit is no small thing. Being the curator, it is so much work.
Yeah, it really was. I feel like after my first ever exhibition, I had to lay in bed for a week or something. Because it started as I was the only main person that is working, coordinating everything. And I didn't have any experience as working as a curator, an artist curator. Cause some people, they go to school for that. And for me, it comes from practice. And some people will say, oh, an artist might not be a good curator, but I think that's such an outdated idea. Cause for artists, you know artists more and you know what they need. And I think that's why it was for my first exhibition, it was successful because I can I can give the artists and stand in their shoes and kind of empower them. So I was very happy, like tired, happy, tired, every time after my exhibitions. Because for me, I think my work is always rooted in people, like the women and like the community, and or kind of like arousing a universal emotions in people. So people are the center in my work. And I think curatorial work also has a lot of creativity in it as well. And I see it also as almost as a form of art itself. So yeah, those things are kind of going at the same time for me.
The last question I have for you, Yannie, is about where you capture your ideas. There are some artists who've been on the show. They use the Notes app in their phone. There are artists who have notebooks. Some create their own notebooks. What do you do to capture your ideas when they come to you out of the blue?
Yeah, Martine, it's actually very basic. I just use my phone and the iPhone Notes app. Because for me, most of the time I was walking around in the city, right? And I was taking the subway, but I don't have a hand. Like I was holding my groceries and my other shoulders carrying my bag. And I was trying to hold on the subway. So the easiest way is for me to pull up my Notes app and just jot down my thoughts. Sometimes my inspiration comes like late at night, like, you go to a shower and you have a shower thoughts and be like, oh, that could be interesting. And then right before bed, you just open your Notes app and then write it down. And then afterwards, I would translate them probably onto my laptop for a more organized structure and to see what it really is and maybe do some research as well.
One of the best things that my sister got me was a notepad for the shower.
Oh.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. So the back has a suction cup that attaches to the wall of your shower. And then the paper is kind of like, it has this coating on it that allows you to write on it, and it comes with a pencil. So then you can just write your thoughts in the shower. I know. Because you can't bring your phone in the shower with you.
No, wait, so what about, the film or like the cover, it protects
it can get wet. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I need to look it up.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it and send it to you. But the best thing is, if I ever go to her house and I see she has a notepad in the shower, and I'll leave her notes and I'll say, Martine loves you.
Oh, that is so sweet. So cute. That is lovely.
Or I'll skip through like several pages and I'll just write little random notes. So as she tears it off, that she'll come to. But it's perfect. I have it in my shower as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because you never know. You have these ideas in the shower.
Yeah. And sometimes like you just really need to write it down. Otherwise it passes you.
Mm-hmm. It passes. Yeah. Oh, well, Yannie, it has been so much fun talking with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so great. So fun.
Hi there. I have a quick favor to ask you before you go. If you're loving the show, would you mind taking a quick second to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite go-to podcast app? Here's the thing. Those reviews are like magic fairy dust. They help other creatives of color discover our show and tap into their own artistic superpowers. While you're at it, why not subscribe to our Substack newsletter, Creative Matters? Creative Matters is like a weekly dose of inspiration delivered straight to your inbox. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. All right, that's all that I have for you today. I can't wait to see you on the next episode. Bye.